Good morning and welcome. This is Tara Lee Live and we are live on YouTube. Good morning. I have Drake with me this morning, my awesome co-host as usual. Thanks for joining me, Drake. And this morning we have James Driskill here. We are going to be talking about all kinds of things. Drake is going to be kind of handling the questions today. So if you have any questions, please direct them my way. I will copy and paste them and get them in the chat for you today. I am super excited and looking forward to having this awesome Saturday morning sesh. It's a beautiful day outside. So what a beautiful way to have and start the day. James, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, Tara?
I'm fantastic. Where are you checking in today from?
I'm in Santa Ynez. I've been hanging out with Amazon John and Livia, and we've got the Soil King coming down later today to hang out and have some fun. And yeah, we're just in a hotel down the street because the house is kind of busting with people right now. So Chloe and I wanted a little bit of privacy. But it's a beautiful day. You know, it's been kind of rainy for a few days, and it's so nice to see the sun out.
Right on. Well, you got Patrick coming down. You guys doing a little bit of work together there? You guys just linking up, as friends?
Yeah, both. I mean, I'm sure we'll get some work done. Hopefully, maybe shoot some videos or something or other. But yeah, we always have a good time hanging out, and often don't get as much done as we intend to. But we'll see what happens.
As long as you're having fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, Patrick's a great guy. Everyone, check him
out.
Yeah,
we're looking forward to seeing him come down. What's that?
I'm just gonna say, everyone, make sure to check out Patrick King if you haven't. The Soil King. Lots of great
products. The Soil King, yeah. Awesome dude. Love that guy.
Hey, and in regards to awesome dude, we got you here today, and we want to learn some more about yourself and kind of, what got you started. And you've done some really cool things along your journey, and you're at an amazing place right now that we'd love to talk about. So do you want to maybe just give a quick little rundown of what got you into cannabis and some of the fundamental things that helped you along the way, even be, with mindset and any sort of other characteristics along those lines?
Yeah, that's a big one. I could probably go on for a long time about that. So just cut me off if I'm too long-winded.
Hit you with a dab time, anytime.
Oh, yeah.
Cheers, everyone out there. I'm going to have a nice hit this morning. I hope you're all happy, high, and healthy. And welcome, chat. Make sure you have it on live chat and not top chat this morning. So go ahead, James. Thank you.
All right. So as far as cannabis, I got into cannabis as a teenager, like a lot of people, and didn't really think of it as anything except something fun to do with friends. I didn't think of it medicinally or any of that sort of stuff.
Not to cut you off, but when you look back at that use now, do you reflect on it as some sort of medicinal use, or do you see it purely as it was recreational via what you were doing with it?
No, I think it's always medicinal. I mean, we know it's always medicinal. It's not even my opinion. People are using it, and that's with a lot of things. People that are using alcohol or pills or whatever, they're self-medicating too. Maybe not with the best medications, but I believe when you're doing this kind of thing, whether it's conscious or not, you are trying to medicate something, whether that's some sort of emotional or mental pain or physical inflammation or whatever it may be. My fiance Chloe dealt with addiction problems for years, and it took me a long time to empathize and understand. Oddly, even though I went through my own addiction stuff, but to understand that she was not doing that because she was a misguided or lazy person or broken or whatever. She was doing that because whatever pain she was going through was easier to be a drunk, or on pills or whatever, than to deal with that pain, which is a really sad thing to realize. And so, I want to, part of my mission in life, I want people to understand the tools and the resources that are available to them, and how to use them, so that you don't have to resort to less than ideal therapies or self-destructive tendencies or whatever it may be, you know, based on whatever pain or trauma or what, you know, that person's gone through in their life. So, you know, cannabis has been instrumental for me. I pretty much take it all day long, every day in different forms. Amazon John has some concoctions that he makes that are, you know, cannabis plus other herbs and things. And I take that all day long. And if I forget, then Chloe reminds me, because if I don't, then, you know, I start getting a bit cranky, you know, less fun to be around.
Symptomatic,
So,
that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
At what point did you really start taking your cannabis use seriously, as far as like the medicinal aspects of it, and understanding and acknowledging really how helpful it was?
I think I really understood it after I started growing it, like really started growing it. Like, I mean, professionally, you know, I grew it when I was younger, just screwing around, and, you know, plants never looked any good thinking back on it. But yeah, once I started our farm in Oregon, and, you know, that meant working closely with Amazon John as my partner there, and just getting to know that plant and spending time with it, and really investing my time and understanding how that plant works, and more about it, you know, other than just, I'm going to get stoned with my friends or whatever. I'm going to get stoned so I can run up these stairs 15 times, you know, and you know, the vomiting is not so unpleasant while I'm stoned, I guess, or whatever. Yeah, I guess it was fairly recently that I really started thinking of it as such a special medicine, such a special plant. And, you know, maybe it does take growing it or just being around it while it's growing to really understand the special nature of that plant, and you know, all of the expression that it's capable of. I mean, it's incredible, you know, comparing to any other plant I can think of. I can't think of another one that has the amount of different expressions that cannabis does.
It's extraordinary, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I like that you're talking about the crankiness, because you're saying that Chloe reminds you to take yours, because my husband, it's totally like, it's kind of like a safe word. He gets to say, honey, go have a dab. It's dab time. You know, like, yeah, like I'm cranky. Like, this cannabis has saved our marriage. I mean, I'm not kidding you. It really has. And it's saved me. It really has. Cannabis is really my new love. I found it late in life. You know, it has done a lot for me with depression, and thank God, you know, I was an addictive personality. I could have went down that other road. Believe me, I drank a lot, you know. Luckily, I wasn't addicted to that, because it did help. You know, that was a lot of things I was doing. I was covering up a lot of that, and drinking felt good, and it makes you feel happy while you're doing it. But that depression just lags in there, and you don't realize it. So I really, that's amazing that she was able to get
and
out.
the drinking is causing so many other physiological problems, even beyond the depression and stuff. You know, the depression is probably one of the bigger important ones that can be dangerous for people and such. But you know, yeah, the alcohol, I mean, even myself, I've never been a big drinker. I've gotten drunk as hell plenty of times, and I've even had alcohol poisoning once or twice, because I was very extreme when I was younger. I like to think of myself as much more balanced now, but you know, I did things rarely, but when I did them, they were extreme as hell. And, you know, the alcohol, even now, if I have a glass of wine or a beer or something, or a drink with dinner or whatever, I notice I don't sleep as well. Maybe I'll snore, maybe I'll wake up in the middle of the night or something. Like, it affects me in ways where, at this point in my life, as I'm getting older, my body's not recovering as quickly. And it's apparent to people like us, Drake, you know, that are doing, you know, things like jujitsu or any sort of intense physical activity. As you get older and your body doesn't repair as quickly, now suddenly I'm less capable of doing this thing that I love. So I start searching harder for how to mitigate this problem. And it's, you know, improving the diet, like we talked about before the show started, you know, and getting rid of the alcohol and stuff, at least to a point, you know. I mean, I still will have a drink every now and then with dinner or something, but it's not
Moderation.
I would rather have a joint with dinner any day. Like, give me a weed pairing. I can't wait for those restaurants.
No, definitely. Yeah, that's a fantastic thing in my opinion. I'm all about it, and have been running my own little weed restaurant for a long time, I'd have to say, because we like to infuse everything around here.
Hell yeah.
But
that's really cool.
With the training with jiu-jitsu, now with where you're at with your mindset on cannabis, understanding how beneficial it is essentially to everybody, do you find that that's kind of like a hand-in-hand kind of connection with the jiu-jitsu and with kind of just being an athlete in general? With all, we kind of look across the platforms with all sorts of these different really high-level athletes, and when you get to know them, lots of them turn out to be really heavy puffers, hitting hard all day long. So is that something you kind of are supportive of now, or are you still on the mindset of like, if you yourself were going to be competing extremely adamantly, would you pull back on your use, or how would you deal with that?
I would monitor my body, I mean, I would pay attention to my body and what it was telling me. And I think that's probably one of the things, I guess people ask me every now and then, what's the one thing you would do to improve the state of the world, blah, 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 whatever, and I used to have a coined response that I would improve education, make education important, and that will solve all the problems. But in the last few years, I've changed that response to breath and body awareness, just teach people to get in touch with their body. Like, how do I feel after I take a dab or a hit off a blunt? Or how do I feel after I eat an apple or after I eat a cookie? How do I feel after drinking milk or after drinking, some kind of really clean water? All these kind of things I pay attention. So sometimes my lungs just don't fucking want any more cannabis. Sometimes I'll start coughing a bunch and everything, and maybe that's indicative of some less than quality stuff that I might have run across in my travels or something. But when that starts happening, I'll start eating edibles, or I mean, obviously sometimes your tolerance just goes so freaking sky high that it's time to just kind of take a reset. And those are painful times, of less sleeping, and I definitely feel like there is sort of there's a balance that has to happen. That's not easy to explain. That's based on just how my body feels.
Of course.
But in general, I will smoke or eat or consume as much as my body will tolerate, and even more so if I don't really compete anymore. But if I'm helping one of my students get ready for a fight or a tournament or something like that, I'll be consuming a lot, because I'll be training really hard with them and taking a lot of damage to my body and needing that recovery. And I just recover much better, and I feel and I'm mentally and emotionally much better when I'm able to consume cannabis, all day, every day, as well as, things like psilocybin, or psilocin. These things are really super excellent for my recovery and just for my mental well-being.
Yeah, exactly. And like with things for times like that, say having a little tolerance break, because lots of us do, it gets up there really quickly, and for certain people that's not a sustainable way to get through your days. So you have to have those little resets. So that's everyone's unique to their own in person. But when we have all this testing, all these studies that are done on very specific things that are going on, we get to learn about compounds that maybe won't influence you in the way that makes you groggy or makes you intoxicated, but we still get some of these benefits. And a thing that we quickly keyed on before the show, and something that's kind of, I'd say, over all of our heads that I'm sure we'll talk about some more, is, and I'm just reading off of a little sheet here, but it's the University of Guelph, I believe, sorry, I probably mispronounced that, but showed how cannabis sativa L produces two molecules, canaflavin A and canaflavin B, that were shown in 1985 to be approximately 30 times more effective than aspirin by weight at reducing inflammation in cell models. So as I said, that's a little bit over my head specifically, but what I'm getting from that is there's certain compounds in there, again, that could even be unique to cannabis, probably not, it's probably quite wide as far as the plant kingdom goes, but at least are in cannabis, that could be very beneficial to, if it can reduce inflammation like that, that's huge for anyone that's training, right? Anyone that's doing any sort of exertion on your body, that's going to be massive. So
absolutely, yeah, that's big. And the thing that stands out about that study the most to me, though, is that it was in 85. And still, this is sort of not common knowledge. I mean, this is another thing that boggles my mind, and I hope to help change throughout my time in this industry, is companies like Bayer, or these companies that produce opiates and and all of this stuff. They have such lobbying power and such power to influence consumer choices and things like that. And it's incredible that you reading that study is probably the introduction for a lot of people. I know, what did you call them? The compounds?
Canaflavin A and canaflavin B were the two they
Yeah.
said.
This is like the second time I've heard these words, and for this study to have done in 85, it's just sad, to come across these things where you find all of this wonderful tech that's been covered up because it was gonna lose somebody a lot of money or something.
Exactly. And now it's our mission and in my opinion, a little bit of our duty as the community to help spread this as fast as we can. And there are so many studies out there. There's so much information that's just been kind of under the noses of everyone, or, pushed in the corner for a lot of others that knew about it that just didn't want to accept it or acknowledge it and bring it up. So there's been a lot of really, really like who John's working with, the Didi Mary, we've got Ethan Russo, there's these Mark Lewis, all these people that are doing this incredible work.
They're brilliant pioneers.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't end. So we just have to acknowledge what they've done and start getting this information. We're lucky to now have people that are intelligent enough to kind of mediate all these studies to a layman like myself, because I read a study and it's like, okay, I'm going to spend 3 days with a dictionary trying to figure out what the heck this all means. And then you're just on rabbit holes. So
Well, Drake, speaking of all those people, James has been behind the scenes a lot, seeing a lot of this stuff going on. Maybe there's something that he might want to mention today, that maybe there's some top information or something that might be going on out there. He also mentioned about like a little type of a combination that Amazon John's been using for you guys to mix little things together. Maybe there's something you'd want to share today about that. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can share a bunch of stuff on ways that I myself and John and Chloe and Olivia and my jiu-jitsu students and people deal with ailments in general. We can have specific targeted therapies and such, but cannabis, I feel, as long as you are consuming a very wide variety of chemotypes, whatever, then you're sort of hitting a jack of all trades kind of dis-ease fighter. And so, with John, he's the herbal king. He's been doing plant medicine for decades, and he's an encyclopedia of Latin names of plants and stuff that just flies over my head all the time. And so he's been giving us herbs for a long time, and for a long time I was taking them without thought of what this is and blah blah blah. Just John takes it, I'll take it. But over the years he's taught me more and more about it, and I've gotten to know camu and maca and baldo and all these different roots and barks and gross things that come from the Amazon. He'll disagree with me. He likes them, but I tell him all the time I think his taste buds have died, because he'll just drink some stuff that tastes like mud and dirt and sticks and love it. But look at the guy. He's healthy and amazing. But yeah, so it's a lot of different things. It's a lot of herbs from the Amazon and from South America and from around the world too. He's not only down there, but that's where he spent a lot of his time. And then medicinal mushrooms, not just psychedelic stuff, but like the lion's mane, which is great for the neuroregenerative kind of stuff. And I actually started taking something that Paul Stamets talked about, which was lion's mane, niacin, and psilocybin simultaneously. And it was interesting what his theory, as I understood it, was that the niacin flushing your body and creating that heat and that blood flow is going to take the lion's mane and the psilocybin to your extremities, where there's often neuropathy and stuff, which I have dealt with plenty. You know, I've had numb, tingling, blah blah blah, nerve damage so many times. You know, and so I wanted to try that out, and I mean, I don't have any control test or anything, but I found pretty great results from that. So yeah, it's the medicinal mushrooms, the herbs from the Amazon and around the world, and cannabis, but cannabis from the standpoint of I want the ultimate entourage effect, in that I'm consuming the greatest variety of cannabinoids, terpenes, flavonoids, all the different compounds, because I'm consuming a lot of different chemotypes and or cultivars or whatever strains. I'm consuming a bunch of different stuff, and not all of it has been decarboxylated. Some of it's still acidic. So, you know, people like Daddy and Ethan and these kind of guys, you know, they're showing how therapeutic these different compounds can be in different forms, whether they're heated or not, or, you know, all the 100+ different cannabinoids, you know, a lot of which don't have names yet. You know, all the crazy amounts of terpenes and stuff, and all the different combinations that they can come in. We try to consume a very diverse mixture of cannabis, you know, as opposed to always just smoking the stuff that I grow. You know, I try to grow quite a bit. You know, we grow a lot of different cultivars for a commercial farm, and we probably have maybe 30 or 40 going sometimes, you know, on a tier 1 in Oregon. I mean, that's crazy from a business perspective, but you know, for us, it's not the main goal is not to make Laughing Dog Farm super crazy wealthy or whatever. The goal is to create extremely therapeutic medicines and things like that. So a lot of it's, you know, R&D and you know, there's benefits too, of course, you know, to growing a lot of different strains with the lessening impact of bugs and diseases and things, of course. But yeah, I think there are certain pillars that I lean on for my own health and well-being, and one of them would be nutrition, including cannabis and all the other medicinal herbs and things.
To key in on your cannabis use specifically, because you mentioned you like to have such a wide range of cannabinoids and so on and so forth, all the compounds, which I'm totally about and completely back. Do you have like a wide consortium of methods of ingestion for your cannabis then? I imagine you're not just strictly smoking joints, right? Do you have a pretty steady process you go through every day as far as routine for what you like to ingest and what works pretty well for yourself?
Yeah, usually I will eat like little alcohol tincture kind of extracts, well, like full spectrum, you know, just kind of keef and alcohol sort of thing, but lots of different stuff, you know, like a real kind of melting pot of cannabinoids and terpenes and stuff. As a I guess as a sublingual or as a capsule or whatever, throughout the day. Sometimes I'll take dabs throughout the day. In fact, I'm gonna go over and get my dab in a second.
Nice. Yeah, feel free.
I was just gonna ask, did James want to take a dab here with us here?
Yeah, let me
take a rip, and let's all take a rip and welcome everybody for being here. This is an awesome chat. Everybody tuning in today. I want to take a dab with you all. It'd be awesome to have a nice celebratory dab this morning with everybody out there. We can unite as a community, at least over the virtual internet now, and even though we can't get together, here we are. So cheers, everyone. Thanks for joining. Go ahead, James. What are you smoking, James?
I don't know. I don't know. I just, I have a bunch of stuff and I put stuff in and I don't really pay attention that much.
Do you smoke joints and blunts or any of that, or do you prefer? What do you prefer?
Yeah. I prefer edibles the most, actually, as far as like my body's reaction. I really love edibles.
Cheers.
Well, and it sounds like you have that
Awesome.
constant kind of baseline too, from having the pills, either periodically throughout the day or at least once every morning and every evening. I imagine that's going to keep a somewhat baseline going, and then you can just supplement dabs or doobies or whatever to get different spectrums of medicine and or different amounts of pain relief. I imagine.
The problem is, I don't know, I don't know what it is, but my tolerance for edibles grows exponentially faster than my tolerance for smokables. So I have to take many more tolerance breaks for the edibles. And so those days are sometimes require a little bit of planning, that I'm not going to be doing something crazy overwhelming or whatever, when I need my meds.
Yeah, of course. And I even use edibles in the same way, because I like not in like any sort of like an ignorant or cocky way, but just edibles. It wouldn't be a cost effective way for me to use it, because I can use excess of thousands of milligrams a day without being completely knocked out or put to bed. And that's right. I mean, especially if you're not able to produce your own product, that's completely unfeasible. When they're charging $60 for a little tincture with like a few hundred milligrams or something, and it's like, well, okay, I gotta drain a few of those a day, and it's like, well, how is that supposed to work for a patient, right? So I use
it's crazy.
The pills as just like a baseline. Just they're in your body, it's being metabolized, and you're getting some benefits. And then same thing, I really moderate myself with dabs, with concentrates, and pretty temporarily, looking, there's a little treat, and eat that and get it in you, but it's not for effect. It's just for peace of mind generally.
I definitely notice often if I don't have Amazon John's alcohol tincture kind of thing, or something that he's formulated for me, and I'm just forced to go to a dispensary and buy some gummies or something like that, I notice a giant difference, no matter the brand, in my physical well-being, especially because most of the time this is either a full THC, a 1-to-1, or a full CBD kind of thing, as opposed to what I'm taking is such a broad spectrum, and even the edibles that I buy, they're more full spectrum type things. I like that better than the isolates and stuff. But I notice a crazy difference. Maybe I will feel really high or something, and I eat a bunch of that stuff, but I don't feel the same well-being, that sense of relaxation, that anti-anxiety, that sort of muscles kind of
the overall relief out. Right?
Yeah, not as much relief, and so it really attests for me to the idea of that mixture, that great assortment of different compounds, and even more than just cannabis. I think the more working parts in there, sometimes it's impossible for us to understand right now at the moment. These things are so complex, but it's fun to speculate.
Lots of diversity.
Maybe Deddy will come out with some new info for us soon. All the stuff that he's doing is so fascinating, with the different cultivars for different ailments and things like that, and how they match up, and how it's so complex.
Speaking of that, where's the best way to find that information? Like, where do you feel like, to find all that and the true? Because I feel like there's so much false information out there that it seems to be so hard to dig and find the right information for some of us that are new to this or might not know. I have a lot of new listeners out there.
Yeah, for Deddy, I don't know, because most of the stuff that I know that he talks about or researched, I heard from him, just him speaking at conferences, or him talking to Amazon John while I sat like a fly on the wall at the table kind of deal. But I know that John loves a website called greenmed.info, and I go on there, and it's like a meta search engine, I guess, for scientific studies. So you can just go into the search bar and type in cannabis and fibromyalgia, or psilocybin and Alzheimer's or whatever, combination of random things you want to put together and see what studies pop up and check those out. That's a pretty cool spot to at least to start. I don't know if John mentioned that when he was on, but
he might have. Oh my gosh, you guys mention so many things every time I talk to guests. I have to go back and watch my videos. I hate watching myself. I hate watching myself, but I have to watch my videos because all my people, like my guests, you guys are awesome. And I really appreciate all this because you're doing this for free. You're coming and you're spending time and you're sharing things that you've learned, things that, people, we don't get to hear from you. You're not on YouTube, you're not talking about these things. John isn't out there, so I appreciate you guys coming because, this information just is we're making history here and the world needs to know it we're talking about it.
I really appreciate you creating, this forum here, this opportunity to talk to people because I do want to, there are some things that are important to me that I would love to see change or grow in the world. And I don't spend a whole ton of time going out there and spreading that message. So, it's something that I want to do more and more, try to convince people to grow your own little organic garden, do something regenerative for the place that you live in. This is really important to me. Even if it's just stop putting chemicals on your lawn or something, that would be enough, just switching to learn how to make a compost extract. Anybody can do that in 5 minutes, and just put that on your lawn or something. And, and also people that
and not only that, it'll save you money. You can do this stuff for practically free, you all. Like the Jodam tech and all this stuff that people can teach you is practically free. So keep going, James.
And I love what Chris Chump said when I was talking to him a little while back, and he was making an analogy for what's going on with the agricultural industry across the world, and that here are, maybe a few decades ago, here are some people or villages or even countries that are struggling with famine, and here comes the superhero savior Big Ag and comes in and says, hey, we're going to give you a bunch of these nutrients, and you put that out and you're going to feed everyone. And it worked, everybody's fed, yay. But okay, well, now that it's working, you guys can buy this stuff. And now you're, what I love that Chris said is they're stuck on smack. They're mainlined. They're addicted now. They can't get off of it. And if they try, they fail and everything's dead, and it's just horrible. And I don't want to see that anymore. I want to.
That is not just out there. That's our local farmer. I live in a farm community. I live in Grant County, right in the middle of Washington State. It is farm ag here. And literally they have farm, I can't remember the farm men. I can't remember what they call them right now. Fieldmen. They literally go out and they tell the farmer and they analyze the field. And they literally tell the farmer, this is what you need. And they make sure that it's applied on the field, that all these things are applied. And they literally basically farm.
And all this kind of crap. And let's just pour a bunch of chems and salts and everything everywhere. And everything's going to grow. Yeah, well, sure. But, it's not going to be long. And fucking if history doesn't show us this over and over again, before you're dealing with so many problems like pests and diseases and just compaction and erosion and just horrible. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. Is it just a massive turnover in farmers that this knowledge is not common? I'm not sure what's going on, but something's got to change. And another thing that I love that Elaine Ingham says is if everybody who's growing food or raising animals or doing agriculture right now on the planet started doing that regeneratively. I mean, I think she said something like a year or 5 or 10 years or some ridiculously small amount of time, we would revert back to pre-industrial greenhouse gases in our atmosphere. And that's just mind-blowing. Whoa, holy crap, this is totally doable. We can really save our soil. We can we can really avoid the human race and lots of animal species having to deal with a pretty disastrous kind of future where it's difficult to survive. The Earth will be fine. I don't have any reason to fear for the Earth itself. It's going to be fine, but we probably aren't going to make it if we continue along this path.
Fear for the people, exactly. Fear
Yeah.
for the right people, the people that are scared right now, the people that are looking for answers right now. That's why we have amazing people in chat right now. Thanks everybody for hanging out. If you have any questions, direct them my way. We will hopefully get them answered for you. We did have one talking about herbs. Should we direct it back into questions here?
Let me just say one
But go
thing
ahead
real
if you had
quick.
something to say. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, just I just want to mention that Chloe and I like have our guru. It would be Alan Watts. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Alan Watts, but we love him. We read everything he writes and listen to him talk on the daily pretty much. And he's got a pretty amazing video that you can find on YouTube. He's got a million of them, but there's one that we really love that's, I think it's called What's Wrong with the World? And he just, kind of breaks it down. And, he talks about like, what do you do when you realize, oh, okay, well, if everybody started growing organically, then the earth would heal, but how can I possibly get everybody to do that? And no, I can't. And can I even change anything at all? Probably not. What do I do in that situation? And it's the most beautiful advice is that I don't do anything. I listen and I feel my body and I see the surrounding area and I find a place of presence and connection to my environment and my fellow beings, and then I make a decision. And I want to encourage people to find that stillness before they make important decisions in their life, whether that's business or family or whatever it is. All right, now herb questions.
Yes, I like that what you said though. That was beautiful because don't feel rushed into making those decisions. Your decisions that you're making today are going to set your future. And that's you said it so very well. So just finding your space and being there with it and really, yeah, I love it. I love this talk. Thank you.
Yeah.
There was a question earlier in chat that made me want to think also, is there some herbs that maybe you could recommend people to start growing on their own property? Is there ones that you grow there in Oregon that you could not do without? Maybe that would be a way to start.
A lot of the herbs that we're taking are Amazonian, I mean, they're tropical. And so without using up my greenhouse, basically, actually my greenhouse wouldn't even do it because it's such a simple thing, it's basically a cover. It doesn't really even have climate control. But without like an amazing greenhouse, I probably wouldn't be able to grow a lot of that stuff. And some of them are trees and things that are a lot more difficult to grow, at least in my little Pacific Northwest environment. Let's see. I'm trying to think of any of the ones that Amazon John formulates with, and he grows them down in South America, and we use the ones that he grows, or that, the Shipibo tribe grows, and he has, really wonderful relationships with local indigenous people down there for decades, and they, have these symbiotic relationships. And so, yeah, I'm not sure about that one, actually. Tell me.
Yeah.
Shaka Piedra.
To grow yourself in your own yard?
No. You can't grow it here. But
that's what she's asking.
Oh.
She's asking what should you grow yourself?
I'm sure it'd be useful to
Miss Chloe's allowed to come and enjoy this anytime if she would like to jump in.
She's feeling shy.
I heard the name Alan Watts and I went, Alan?
Yeah.
I would love for you to join. You're always welcome.
Girl, I would
You're awesome. But you probably have stuff going on.
Yeah, she's got interviews to do too. She's got to get ready.
Yeah, I would assume.
She and her mom are are up to no good around here when they're hanging out
That's
together.
amazing. Number one, they're doing amazing. Yeah, tell them what they're doing, James. Tell everybody in the audience what's going on.
They're just, they're changing the world in their ways by spreading love and light and magic through music and inspiring people and, brightening up their day when they may be having a sad times. Chloe gets messages, and Olivia too, all the time. And I get to see these, and it's incredible how many people reach out to them saying, thank you, wow, your song really saved my life or helped me on this hard day or made me realize something I needed to, or whatever it is, and they love that. So keep sending them those messages. But I watch Olivia sit at a table and personally write a message and sign thousands of photographs and things that she sends to her fans because they send to her, and she just spends so much time with them. It's beautiful and they love it. So yeah, they've got a brand new song that just released that was number one on Billboard or something. I don't understand all of the charting stuff, but I think
it's number
it did really
one or
well.
something. I don't know.
It's pretty good. I love it. I've been singing it in my head for the last couple of days.
It's pretty incredible what this whole family, what you guys are all doing for the community, just from like you being a professor of jiu-jitsu and helping people with their physical and the kind of mental and that, and in the farm and helping spread just good, good medicine, and then the knowledge that you want to give, and the sustainable farming, and then the good music and everything that they're doing on their end. It's like, it's a pretty crazy circle you guys got going on there. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. And it makes perfect sense, to people like us, when you realize anything I do to improve your day is going to improve my day, and that philosophy is just rings very true to us. And so you are me and I am you, and we got to stick together.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And then of course, not to leave out John, he's like a whole other entity in himself from everything he's done. So it's fantastic. So again,
he might be an alien. I'm not sure. He's probably an alien.
At least he's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, giving him a good name, that's for sure. So
yeah.
Well, hey, in regards, well, go ahead.
I was gonna say the jiu-jitsu guys out there, they need to, if they haven't already, try some cannabis for your recovery or even for your training in general. I know back in my heyday before I was a black belt, when I was training like a psychopath, 6 or 8 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week, it was just nothing else but training and studying, martial arts kind of stuff. We would smoke a joint before going in to have like a little private training session. And, this was almost 20 years ago or something. So we didn't know, about terpenes or entourage effect or whatever. It was a real crapshoot. Like, is this one going to knock us on our ass? Is this one going to make us super creative? Are we going to just fucking get like a crazy pump on with, just hard work or whatever? But nowadays, you can really kind of pinpoint some of those effects, and you can have a relaxed, lazy flow role, or you can have a super intense competition role, or you can have a really creative role where you're, inspiration, finding inspiration and creating new things and moves as you go, at full speed with someone. These are all really important ways to grow in jiu-jitsu. And I, as a jiu-jitsu teacher, for, I don't know, a long ass time, 10 or 15 years or something, I've seen so many students either stagnate or grow, incredibly fast, exponentially faster than others. And I think it has a lot to do with getting out of your comfort zone, and also really kind of making a plan or understanding from a deeper level what your goal is, what you're trying to accomplish, why you're here, all this kind of stuff. So many of my students will listen to me tell them some of these things, nod, and then keep doing whatever the hell they were doing, and always wonder, why am I not getting a belt or a stripe or getting any better or whatever. These guys, they need to understand and realize the power, even when you're young, because I didn't get it, and I probably could have done much better, but I get it now, and it's helping me tremendously. But the power of your diet, the power of your breath, the power of, you know, having a really great community around you, the power of things like cannabis and psilocybin for opening the mind and healing the body, and teaching itself, you know, that was something that was really, really beneficial for me, because it makes you really look at the details. You know, if you're showing someone something
down to so much more detail, right? When you have to try to speak and say how to go through it, because, you know, when you do it, it's one thing. Your brain, you just do it. But then when you tell someone to just do it, that doesn't work. So you really have to mentally break it down and get the whole fundamentals of it. And
and you learn that people learn in different ways too. You know, not everybody learns in the same way. So at one level, you're like, haha, I figured out how to reach this person, but it has no effect at all on this other person, you know, because they're a visual learner and they learn by feeling, or they have to hear it, or whatever it is. And I used to joke about that all the time. The jiu-jitsu professors that are like, all right, you're gonna grab them and then you're just gonna do this. You just go like that, you know. And I'm like, oh God, you're killing it, buddy. But you know, that totally makes sense to like a quarter of the people in there. They see that and they're like, oh yeah, okay, that's easy. But the rest of them are just clueless, like, what the hell are you talking about? But yeah, the breath, you know, learning to breathe, that's something that my teacher Hickson was like so focused on and put so much attention into, and was a real master of his breath. And so, you know, he could be working really hard and still have a pretty calm breath, and he could control his heart rate. And that's something that he trained us to do quite a bit through grueling and painful exercises and things, but with the intention of learning to control heart rate, learning to monitor breathing, learning to be more comfortable in places of severe discomfort. And that has translated so much into the rest of my life, and into business, and into cannabis growing, and all of that.
Yeah, it shines through.
Yeah, it's just this like, okay, well, yeah, these russet mites are really giving me a hard time, but at least that 300-pound dude is not inside control right now.
It lets you really step back and have that third person perspective of things, I found. And it really helps myself as a same thing, just a young, semi-cocky individual. And it really humbles you really, really quickly. You learn that. So that's fantastic. With the analogy with the russet mites here, I think it's a good time to transition over and talk a little bit about your farm, and let everyone know kind of what's going on, what it's called, what you're doing. And we had a comment in chat saying Bioharmonic Tonic is amazing stuff. That was from 707. So maybe you want to talk about your farm a little bit, get into that, and then we can talk about the Bioharmonic Tonic.
Yeah, sure. So our farm is in Canby, Oregon, which is pretty near Portland, maybe 45 minutes southeast of Portland. It's a tier 1 rec grow. We started that farm in 2016, I believe, so it's a fairly young place. And we wanted to, from the very beginning, it was really important for us to be completely organic and learn and move into regenerative type spaces. And we also wanted to formulate and come up with these therapies, you know, for people like Olivia or like Chloe or like myself, or, you know, all the people that we knew, and any of the friends of Olivia and John who, you know, are getting older and starting to encounter more dis-ease. And so we wanted to really figure out how to let cannabis express itself in its most therapeutic way possible. And we weren't really super interested in maximizing yields and that sort of stuff as much. Obviously that is great, and we do focus on that, but it was much more of let's get this plant to really express as much as it can to make the best therapies and medicines and such. So that's kind of how Bioharmonic Tonic started to develop. When we had the farm going, John had already been kind of interested in these microbes potentially as a human supplement, and then getting into the cannabis and applying these microbes there, and then formulating and doing testing with the different herbs, and seeing how the microbes respond when being introduced to really trace amounts of botanicals that come from a place that is so amazingly alive and so full of life energy and information, that's been fairly untouched for a long time, and watching how the microbes and the plant change that interaction, the presence of some of this sort of plant knowledge that we're introducing, as well as the gemstones and the harmonic fields. John's, I'm sure you guys must have talked about gemstones quite a bit, and he's a real stones kind of guy. He knows a lot about that and has been into gemstones for decades. And this is something newer to me. I've always loved gemstones and been attracted to them, but never really put too much thought into their healing properties and such until really kind of getting to know Amazon John more. And so watching the microbes and the plant and the difference and the response and the controlled trials where the gemstones are present and where the harmonic field is present, and the theory, as we've talked about before, is that the gem elixir and the harmonic field are improving microbial communication, because the microbes are communicating with electrical signaling. And there are some studies that we've seen that talk about microbial communication being increased in the presence of these very small electric fields, like a piezoelectric effect that can happen when gemstones are kind of knocked together or mechanically distorted, or even in the presence of the harmonic fields and the sort of vibrations that are connected with everything from the plastic bottle to the Puffco to the amethyst or whatever. So the farm sort of became an R&D testing station for Bioharmonic Tonic and other modalities to reach this goal of the ultimate therapeutic piece of cannabis, to help someone, whether that's cancer or Parkinson's or whatever. Now I feel like we really feel really confident, in Bioharmonic Tonic, and I, just to be clear, like, you can make your own gem elixir, and you can buy Amazonian herbs, and you can create or cultivate beautiful, diverse microbial colonies. And you can do, and you should do, all of these things if you can, to be completely regenerative and save the plastic bottle, that tonic comes in. I want everybody to use Bioharmonic Tonic to improve the health and quality of their medicine and of their plants, but I think it would be better if you made it yourself. But I understand that not everybody is capable of doing that. Not everybody has a 115-acre farm where they can go collect IMO easily and stuff, but it's not as hard as you think, and you can make a good IMO1 collection even if you live in an apartment in Los Angeles. You just might have to drive a little bit. You can make your own soil food web compost, small, just even on your balcony if you wanted to. There are ways that you can do this, but Bioharmonic Tonic, is our way of saying, look, here's a stepping stone. Hopefully this will lead you down a regenerative path so that you become interested and start really healing your local environment. But everybody has their way of improving the world, and some, Chloe and Olivia, they're not going out and doing regenerative farming. They're going out and spreading love and music. So I would expect them, they would be doing Bioharmonic Tonic, not making compost.
Yeah, of course. And I really, really appreciate and respect that you kind of gave that little disclaimer. You can try and do this yourself and be completely regenerative, because that really is the core message here. And you can see who cares about it by who talks about it. So that's great. And we had another comment about the Bioharmonic Tonic asking if we understand why it works so darn good during veg as a foliar spray, or if it's, we know it's a beautiful microbial rich, awesome elixir. So obviously it's going to have benefits, but do we know a little bit more down to like the core reasons as to what specific, unison, diversity, of course, I imagine is going to be kind of a ticket, but what's your understanding of that?
As a foliar specifically?
Yeah. The question was in veg as a foliar. So apparently it's working real good. Those plants must just be trying to go through the roof.
Yeah. So, part of that is competition. Part of that is the diverse microbial colony in there that is sort of colonizing all of that phyllosphere, all of the above ground area of the plant, and the stems and leaves and everything, with those good, beneficial bacteria and fungi and everything that's going on, colonizing that space. Then there's so much less opportunity for pathogens as they float in on the wind or get carried in by a bug or whatever to have any sort of detrimental impact. They're going to be outcompeted. They're going to have a hard time finding food stuff. They're potentially even going to be eaten or destroyed by either directly being munched on or, some antibiotic that one of the beneficial microbes releases because it senses, competition or threat in its environment. And that's the beautiful thing, is that this all is going on whether you spray anything on your plant or not. You have native, beautiful, beneficial microbes on there, unless you've done something silly like nuke them all with some chemical. But there is always ebbs and flows in these communities, and some events that you may not even be aware of, whether it was a drastic change in humidity or temp or something at some point or whatever, can knock these colonies down. So doing a regular foliar with a beneficial microbial is just smart practice, in my opinion, just for that sort of competitive edge. And then, having the microbes themselves educated, like we say, with that deep Amazonian kind of information or knowledge, not to mention in the presence of that harmonic field, I think allows those microbes to do that job of out competing and oh God, you don't show them that Spice Girls dance.
That was hilarious.
So yeah, I think it works really well during veg as a foliar because it's not allowing any problems to start up on that leaf surface, or at least it's helping to stop any of the stuff that is latent, that may wait to, that may grow insidiously inside and undetected and then show up and flower, and cause problems. It's so protective in that way. I find it to be really beneficial in veg for that.
Yeah, and then I imagine, if anything, they could have the potential to actually help the plant be able to probably start mispronouncing things or saying the wrong words now, but I want to say photosynthesize, or actually, how like this, maybe I know it's more due to like the VPD, but have the stomatas, open up a little more, be happier, or, that's just my mindset. If there's less negative on there, it's going to be able to just function as a happier plant better, and in turn, you're going to have a nice, happy plant. Of course, anything else drips down. If you're doing a really, really heavy soak, is going to get into your soil, and then you're going to have the wonderful chelating properties and whatever else is in there that's lovely. So I imagine just, overall that vegetative foliar is probably kicking butt.
Yeah, and these microbes are also metabolizing, as they move around, and they're releasing nutrients that are beneficial, and so especially in the soil. pouring on microbes, I think it was pouring on just a bunch of little nutrient factories. I mean, they're just going to go in there, that some of them are going to die and they're going to decompose, and that's going to be food that's just instantly available, maybe into a different microbe, and
but actually that makes me recall the episode we had not yesterday with Matthew Gates, but prior, and we were talking about how the plants, not necessarily cannabis, but most likely cannabis as well, and a bunch of other plants, but can't remember the exact one. But there was lots of studies to show on a specific plant how that it was able to process these different, exudes and stuff from the microbes that are on the leaf surface, as well as actual insects and so on and so forth that lands on it and dies. And there's some ability for it to be able to be processed. So I imagine just by spraying it, like you said, there's probably right off the bat some instantaneous nutrition that's absorbed through the plants right away, whatever that process is called above my head, and then all the other beneficials you just mentioned. So cool.
And then it serves the purpose of cleaning that leaf surface too, as that stuff gets eaten up, instead of just sitting there in a sterile environment, just kind of getting crusty.
What is your the main way you like to use Bioharmonic Tonic? I imagine you use it in a couple different ways, but what's your favorite?
Favorite is to drench the hell out of the soil with it. I mean, I have access to it, so sometimes I'll just pour on straight tonic, like if I have some plants in pots or something that are waiting to go out into a field or whatever, I'll douse them, especially if one looks like it might be struggling or unhappy at all, or maybe it got overwatered or something, like I'll just douse it with tonic. And we generally recommend to apply at like 3 to 6 milliliters per gallon at every watering or feeding. But, because I'm working a sort of regenerative organic system, I'm not worried too much about die-off and diversity. So I don't always apply it all the time, but I will often apply it in really, really high dose to just kind of just blast the root zone with even just full on straight tonic or something. If I were growing hydroponically indoors with salts or something like that, I wouldn't do that. I would do it, 6 mils every single watering and feeding, knowing that some of those microbes are gonna have a hard time in that environment. So trying to keep that diversity up as much as possible. This is where I think tonic really can shine well to improve terpene and cannabinoid profiles and synthetic grows go ahead.
Do you ever suggest brewing up the tonic? Is it something that's able to be multiplied over time, or is there a significant amount of die-off if you try to do that?
So, the thing, as I'm sure with brewing and stuff, there's so many different microbes in there, and they were grown in a specific environment, and they had specific foods, and it's all kind of a process to create this thing, even though it's all natural implements. When you brew something like that, if you don't get the food, if you don't get the air, if you don't get the temperature, if you don't get all of these things perfect, and then you're brewing whatever microbe likes that the most. So yes, the answer is yes, you can brew this and you can make more tonic, as long as you understand that it will be most likely a less diverse version of tonic.
Of course, and I love that you addressed it in that way, because that's kind of what I assumed you would say in kind of like the layman's term. The product we get in the bottle is a bunch of these dormant microbes that have all been cultured on their own, that are put together, that are now not out competing each other because they're more dormant. So when you activate them in a seed,
they weren't really cultured on their own, though. It's not like we're adding different microbes together and putting them in a jug. These are all microbes that grow naturally within a sort of anaerobic ferment of lactating cow manure with some sort of secret proprietary things that I don't even know what they are.
Thank you for touching on that, because I misspeak all the time. So I
No,
appreciate
it's fine, you know, but it's, you know, the point is that it's a really naturally occurring colony that's boosted, you know, with certain catalysts and things like this. But, you know, it's all just whatever was in that cow manure from that lactating cow. And, you know, the cow's lactating is really important and part of what makes this tonic or this microbial community really special. And that that cow is, you know, the healthiest that it's ever been right now, as it's lactating and providing for its young. And then you get such a different microflora, you know, when you're pregnant or when you're nursing than when you're not. So that's kind of really one of the big special things about Bioharmonic Tonic as well.
Well, there you
So
go.
that's why
Go ahead.
That's why you see the, you know, the LAB type stuff in tonic as well, that, you know, you don't see as often in some other bottled microbial kind of things.
Yeah, and I would imagine if you're just brewing up a tea with some organic blackstrap molasses unsulfured, you're most likely going to brew up a lot of those real aggressive bacilluses that are going to outcompete maybe some of the other things in there. But my idea of, or breakdown of that would be, especially for people that are really trying to get by with minimal funds spent on these products, is these things are amazing and they work great, and just use them in the best ratios for yourself. So maybe brew up a tea once every week or once every couple of weeks with just a small amount, because it really doesn't take much to get a lot. In ideal conditions, you can double populations in every 2 hours around 25 degrees Celsius, and just look up the charts online. I'll tell you how much to add, and then apply the product itself also on a weekly regimen or so on and so forth, just as a drench without breaking it down. Without messing up the concentration.
That's perfect advice, you know. And anybody out there that wants to, you can get a 5 gallon or a 55 gallon bucket or whatever, and put some water in there and put an air stone in there and pour some tonic in there. You can do it without an air stone. You can do it a lot of different ways. And brew that up and make a ton of the stuff. And you can even drop some quartz crystals into that bucket and have that sort of gem imprint going on at the same time. And you can buy some maca and some mudapama and some camu camu, and, you know, pinch a bit of that in there, and you're making sort of a bioharmonic tonic. You're making more tonic, and you're potentially not losing as much in the process by kind of, you're going to lose some diversity. So let's bump up the harmonic, let's bump up the plant intelligence kind of deal.
And then if you're able to go anywhere nearby, within an hour or even two, depending on how determined you are, and you can find a nice unmessed with area in the forest and be able to sustainably get just a little bit of the forest leaf litter. There's in one little teaspoon, there's billions of microorganisms. So like you can easily sustainably source a small amount of that, add little bits to your tea, and make a tiny little cup go a long way. And obviously keep in mind what environment you're in, how much, how many people are nearby compared to the forest area, and take accordingly, because we only want to remove 10. We don't want to take very much away from it, essentially is what I'm saying. So be very respectful, but it's a super easy way to get a way more diverse group of microorganisms than lots of the other ways that we spend a lot more work on.
Yeah, and so that brings me back to, you asked me what's my favorite way to use Bioharmonic Tonic, and I guess really my favorite way is probably, I love drenching the roots, but I love adding it to something like a limo or an AACT, or using concepts from tonic when I make those things. Like we put gemstones in our barrels when we make any kind of aerated tea or limo or whatever, or we put I'll put little pinches of botanicals, into my drums and barrels and buckets and whatever when I brew stuff, or even if I make some sort of anaerobic ferment, I'll put gemstones, and I'll put a little gem elixir, or I'll put a tiny bit of Amazonian botanicals in there too. Kind of harmonizing and tonicifying all the stuff I make. But the easiest way, you know, when I'm bogged down and busy as shit, is after I finish brewing my limo or compost tea, I just add a, you know, 10 mils of tonic per gallon kind of thing or something to just get that imprinting of the harmonic field, you know, whatever diversity is added from the tonic, you know, the tea, if I did it really well, is going to be way more diverse than the tonic, of course, but there's still probably some stuff in the tonic that's not there locally, indigenous for me, that, you know, maybe that will survive, maybe it won't, but, you know, I find my best results when I'm using the indigenous stuff from my surroundings and mixing that with my bioharmonic tonic.
Awesome. And yeah, I believe it. It's diversity generally seems to tip the scale in favor from what I've been understanding from this, you know, this little learning adventure I've been on for the last few years, especially going down the, you know, the regenerative, the permaculture style, this natural farming whole kick. And it's
easy to see, you know, you go to any corn farm or any cannabis farm that's one cultivar, you know, like, I mean, those kind of places tend to be dealing with a lot of problems, you know, that monocropping mentality, you know, so we got lots of cover crops and lots of plants just growing all over the farm around, you know, trying to keep that diversity up, not only on the microbial level, but on the plant kingdom level as well.
And the organic matter, right? We find that that's one of the most important things, just to have lots of organic matter that can drop back down. And I see you, Tara, go ahead.
I would like to address just a little comment in chat that yes, it is a weed and everybody can grow weed and it is, you know, it is different about different growing styles, but it's really hard to grow really good weed. It really is. It's not that easy. I'm sorry. Like it is real. I have been struggling. Like I've pulled off some amazing crops, but it's because I brought in this amazing soil that I was already pre-mixed for all this stuff. And yeah, I had an amazing year. And then the next year I didn't amend my soil right, and come to find out it's not really soil. It's kind of soilless soil, right? It's potting soil. It doesn't really have the clay in it. It doesn't have all the diversity that these microbes are actually going to need to rebuild my soil. So I didn't actually do what I needed to do. So to grow really good weed and the type of medicine that I need to grow bubble hash rosin, serious hash, to grow the quality that I need, it is a lot harder than you think it is. I just have to say that. Did Drake feel a different way?
100%.
Does James feel a different way?
Well, no. It's I'm sure it's like if you have an amazing foundation, you've got a great property, and I'm talking outdoors, and you're in the right area, and you can have a good flowering season, and there's not a lot of issues, and you happen to get a smacking property, yeah, you can almost put seeds in, and you're off to the races because you've essentially done the work by the location you've sourced. But everyone else has to replicate that first to be able to get those results. So it's like if I love, it's really easy to grow cannabis. Anything, like just go from start to finish. And for most people, unfortunately, there's a lot of not the best cannabis going around. Lots of the stores don't have necessarily the best stuff. A lot of the people who have been years, and it comes in and, you know, it's decent, but not incredible. So to grow that incredible cannabis, it is a ton of work. It's you have to put the time in. You have to know exactly what you're going for. You have to have the right environments. If you're doing it indoors, you really need to know what's going on. And genetics is a huge factor in it as well. So it is easy to grow cannabis, so we can agree with that. But it's also hard to grow quality cannabis. And yeah, it's you're gonna come across issues eventually. It's gonna happen if you're not fully prepared. And when it does, it's gonna be pretty catastrophic. So it's something.
I think it's. Whoever said that, like, I think it'll be obvious if you go to a dispensary and you look at all of the cannabis on offer there, and you look at the cheapest one and you look at the most expensive one, and realize, yeah, these are all professionals. These are all licensed professionals, and some of this looks like garbage. You know, some of this looks like just, you know, and smells like nothing. I mean, when we could smell things, but some of it doesn't have any smell at all. And some of this, you know, look, this is Sun and Earth certified and, you know, certified kind, and this is outdoor, but this is, holy shit, this looks amazing and this smells amazing. What the, these are both from the same kind of region. So yeah, it's a weed. It's super easy to grow it, and you can pretty much just throw seeds out in the forest and come back later and collect weed. But that's, you know, the difference in quality can be pretty dramatic by, like, exactly what you're saying. And, you know, for Tara, needing it for medicine and wanting that fullest and greatest expression, it really does take a keen eye to keep that plant really healthy, especially if you're doing like a synthetic kind of thing. I think it's much easier when you do it organically and just let the plant figure it out. You know, if you have a healthy soil system, I don't have to spend much time, you know, wondering if my plant is deficient in potassium or magnesium or whatever, because my soil is just really on point.
Put that
you know?
effort in up front. We've been talking about that a lot recently, right? Like you build, like, especially a lot of us that have been growing in pots and smaller pots and in there every day and hand watering and add in little this and that. And then you go and you make this soil, let it sit for 6 weeks. Feels like, you know, I'm just cusping on my first big soil blend. Just following a recipe. 6 weeks feels like forever. But the first bed I built prior to this one felt like I was being lazy or negligent to the plants. But they were so happy, they were pretty much telling me to piss off. Every time I look at them, they say, get out of here, we're fine. Like, leave me alone. And, you know, I'd be, well, maybe I'll trim a little bit of this. And they'd scoot me out of there. And no, I'm fine. I'm happy and just green and good to go. And, you know, so then I got a little camera so I can just watch them, and you don't need to do as much. Whereas the other ones, you do kind of have to baby them because they're not in a great environment. They don't have that diversity. They don't have all this communication going on. They don't get to have little pockets of, oh, I need a little bit of this resource, and then I get to scoot over here and get a bit of this, and then they scoot down to the bottom, and oh, it's nice and hot down here. No, it's just everything's like this or everything's like that because you have such a small surface area of medium. So.
Yeah, and you're totally right. You know, the genetics are so important. You know, finding stuff that's local, that's accustomed to your little microclimate you're in or whatever. I mean, if you're growing, you know, outside or whatever, or even inside for that matter, if you don't have to spend so much money. The genetics are crazy important in understanding how to dial in that environment and understanding what the plant likes, but also understanding that nature is beautiful and chaotic, and it's okay to not have everything perfect. And the more you try to perfect that, you know, the more you can fall into rabbit holes that don't lead to good places. So, you know, trying to mimic nature is I think a beautiful strategy for growing this plant. And, you know, some of us are growing in places like Washington or Oregon or Maine or wherever, where it can be a bit unfriendly to grow outside. And, you know, I think about those people who are trying to grow their first plant, or maybe they've had 1 or 2 cycles and, you know, are really struggling or whatever it may be. You know, like Tara said, it's easy when you have a beautiful soil made for you and all this kind of stuff. But when you start trying to reuse that soil, it can get tricky if you don't know how to deal with soil testing and rebuilding and re-amending and stuff. But I think of those people that, you know, all they have is a balcony or a windowsill or a tiny backyard that barely gets any sun or whatever, and they want to grow some cannabis. Just grow an autoflower. You know, I mean, I would advise them all in this journey towards being your own regenerative farmer and growing all your own food and cannabis and medicine and whatever. It would be a great place to start with. Could be a tomato or a zucchini or an autoflower cannabis plant or whatever. I love like cloth pots, you know, that breathe well. Get a cloth pot, put some, I love Big Root soil from Soil King. He's, you know, a friend of mine, and I think his soil is fucking killer. And, you know, if you can't make your own soil, then this is pretty amazing, especially for cannabis. But it would work perfectly for veggies and stuff too. But I would get a cloth pot. I would probably get like at least a 20-gallon, maybe a 30-gallon cloth pot. A lot of soil so that it's super easy for you. Again, you know, the more soil you have, the easier time you're gonna have. And put Big Root soil in there and put an autoflower seed in there and stick it on the balcony and just give it water and tonic and you're going to be pretty good to go. Maybe you can top dress it with some worm castings a couple of times or something. It'd be easy for anybody. Oh yeah. Baby roots actually would be, you can make this more and more complicated. You put a little layer of baby roots on the top and have the big roots underneath, and that would be really great. But it doesn't have to be super complicated. Those of you on the fence about growing a cannabis plant because you don't have the space or whatever, just get a pot. Make sure the pot drains. Don't get a pot that doesn't have holes in the bottom. Stick some big root soil in there and autoflower seed and water and tonic, and you're good. And then the next time, now you have to re-amend that soil when you want to grow again. Actually, you could probably get a few autoflower rounds out of that soil, no problem. But when it comes time later, then don't forget to learn about soil testing, send out a soil test, understand what's going on. Even though that soil test might not make any sense to you, by the time you get the next one, you'll be happy that you have the previous one to compare it to. So don't wait on that. And they're not expensive. They're really cheap and pretty easy to do. Your local garden center can probably help you with that. Sorry for going off on that tangent.
No, that was great. I love that you keyed on that little bit, because that is a big thing. And that, say almost 80-90% of people, as soon as they've done their grow, that pot, the soil's getting thrown. Some of that's usually not even on the property, somewhere off and out of there and out of sight, out of mind, and on to the next one, and more money, more investment, leaving that soil. Some people, sometimes we get taken to the dump, for Christ's sake, for however long back in the day. So it's like, we really got to work on reusing this. And if anything, you've cultured now microbial environment that's tailored towards cannabis in that pot. So yeah, just give them a little more goodies, and then that plant you put in there next is going to be just fired off to the races, because it's already got a foundation set up for it. Now you plug it in, and especially if you're using a similar cultivar, or even the same cut from the same mother, it's just going to be ready to rock, because it's already got a home there. You're sending it home instead of putting it to a new place to set up camp.
Yep. And I'm sure your audience are mostly people who are really familiar with cannabis, but just if there is anybody watching that isn't and is inspired to grow a plant, just don't overwater it. That, just the biggest advice that I will give.
That's how I killed every house plant. I overwatered I was the worst house plant grower. In fact, I have one house plant to this day. That's it. Like, I just started another one, and an aloe vera plant. Okay, so this is a new journey for me to have houseplants. I love growing outdoor. I am such an outdoor grower. It's been amazing for me. But cannabis really is different, because I feel like it's just such a heavier feeder than my tomatoes were, or that my peppers were. Like, it's really, it seems a lot harder for me. Am I really making it that much harder, or is it is actually a little bit harder?
I think it can be made really difficult, and I think a lot of times when people are struggling, then it's most likely a problem with the soil composition, or whatever's going on in the root zone. A lot of times it's maybe failing to use a mulch or something, if it's causing compaction, or once or twice overwatering, or even underwatering. It's very difficult, actually, I think, for anyone, including me, but especially newer growers, to water correctly. So in knowing that if you underwater, you're going to have fine root hair die off, and if you overwater, you're going to have fine root hair die off and rotting and all kinds of horrible stuff. So I think really putting a lot of effort into understanding proper watering can elevate a new grower quickly, to that next level of, all right, now I just have to worry about mites or whatever it is. The next thing.
The next wave of issues to come with it.
Yeah. But it's really difficult, because watering issues can look like so many other issues, and so it becomes a diagnostic nightmare, I think, sometimes, especially when you're posting pictures on social media and stuff, and everybody's giving you 500 different, ways to fix it, and 700 CalMag jokes, and all this kind of craziness, I could see that I would easily turn off a new grower and be like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to go buy it from the dispensary. And at that point now they're going back to smoking chems and stuff.
Yep.
And I think about people that tell me all the time, I can't smoke cannabis because it makes me anxious or whatever. My body, I'm not the type of person, blah, blah. And I don't necessarily buy that. I think that most likely those people either overdid it, had too much, because they're smoking with their friend that doesn't understand maybe the difference in tolerance and how that builds. And so they're passing it to their newbie friend, every puff, and that's not really appropriate for them. Or it could be that they're smoking chems, that shit's got some nasty freaking pesticide or got a bunch of buildup of phosphorus, that coal, when you're smoking that bong hit and it's coming out just black and sticky as fuck. And, those people are probably getting anxious because of that. And I just want to encourage as many people as possible to try some really good quality organic, preferably regeneratively grown cannabis in a small dose, and try different cultivars and try some CBD and try some
different
CBC.
methods of ingestion, right?
Yeah, and eat some and and vape some and whatever. Take a dab. Dabs aren't as scary as people make them seem to be.
You just take a little one. You just moderate.
A little tiny one.
You can
That's why
get
this thing is
same
great.
relief from such a little amount, right? Like it's way more beneficial.
This thing's
I think
tiny.
more of the scary part is actually the torch. I think the torch is the scariest part for people about dabbing. And so that Puffco right there is amazing. My friend Red River traveled around with it, and I've smoked out of those Puffcos. I haven't actually bought one. I'm thinking about buying the new one and finally might give in. But those things are amazing. If you do have someone that is afraid of using the torch and that, those little Puffcos are amazing little gems, and they keep you from wasting stuff. They really help. So
fancy.
Yeah.
It's got colors.
So James, we've had you on here for a bit. How long we got you? And like, I don't want to keep you too long because we definitely want to have you back, and maybe have the family back next time.
Yeah, let's see. Okay. Yeah, I should probably get going pretty soon. I gotta write some articles and go come up with some ideas of fun stuff to do with Soil King when he gets here.
Awesome. Well, I know.
Can't wait to see it come to fruition.
Yeah, exactly. I love when y'all guys get together. I've been paying attention to all your Instagrams, you guys. By the way, we showed the Instagrams out, so make sure to follow all these guys. And also, Lala has been doing some amazing interviews with us on Wednesdays, and she would like to have you back in on a Wednesday and let her kind of. So yeah, so we're gonna hopefully plan that with you, and we'll do that. And
what time is your Wednesday thing?
Wednesday, we're trying to keep them all at 10 o'clock Pacific time. So you can tune in at 10 o'clock on Wednesday or Saturdays at 10. But if we have to go a little earlier, let me know.
Well, the thing is, when I'm in Portland, I always teach a 10:30 a.m. jiu-jitsu class.
Oh.
I figure you'd be doing some stuff in the morning. So we can definitely accommodate your schedule and talk off air and figure out what works best.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
If you wanted to start a little earlier or later, I could come in for part of it or whatever. I'd love to come and talk with you guys.
We'll do a later show that day. We'll do that. We'll just plan
she had a great question about some of the breathing techniques and stuff, and I'm sure she'd love to get deeper into that. And we'd love to, there's a lot of stuff that you keyed on that I guarantee she was excited for, and I was too. So I can't wait to have that episode and bust it open. So have you back. What about as far as if anyone wanted to reach you or anything you wanted to plug or so on and so forth? We'll leave it to you.
You can follow me on Instagram at James Driskill. You can see my farm at Laughing Dog Farms, Oregon. Bioharmonic Tonic is at Bioharmonic Tonic, and then recently got onto. Are you guys on the Clubhouse app thing?
So I have a problem with Clubhouse. It's only for people who have iPhones.
Oh,
so
right.
I don't have an iPhone, right? So I'm like, but what I really think is not very nice is that they don't even let their iPad users use it. I'm like, wow, that's really
Is there a reason?
They still don't even have an app for them. They can't even use it. So you literally have to have an iPhone. So they're really trying to get people to go back and buy iPhones. And I know it's working because I know some people that have bought iPhones.
Or are they just too cheap and lazy to make the app for Android?
I think
more programming.
it's a ploy to get more people to get back to an iPhone. I really do. But
Clubhouse
hey, that's
is owned by
okay.
Apple.
That's okay.
Yeah, we'll see soon, but hopefully it spreads cross-platform right away. Because I'm like a fly on the wall.
But I hear it's really cool, and I hear there's amazing, great conversations. I would love to be over there.
I just jumped in there, cool. And it's there's a lot of really smart people talking about cool stuff, and I could see how you could just sit in there all day. So I've sort of avoided it because I don't want that to happen.
And Zoom could really take advantage of that platform because Zoom actually has the ability to do all of that. It's just how they marketed it all. But it is cool. I'm not going to hack on it. It was cool. So
I did see someone selling invites on Reddit the other night, which I kind of
thought was wow.
Don't go buying invites. You'll get your invite. Like just have good integrity and care, and someone will invite you.
You can all tune in here free every Wednesday and Saturday. We'll be here. Anybody can use this app on YouTube. It's free.
I will also say that anybody who is interested in implementing or learning more about regenerative farming, and I'll say right now, I'm no expert, and there are much smarter people in this field, like Chris Trump or Wendy Kornberg or Elaine Ingham, and all these people, they are very, very great wealth of information. But if anybody wants to ask me anything about it, from what I know, you can hit me up anytime. I love talking shop.
We tossed all your links in chat there, so everyone can click those, follow, and send you a DM if they got any questions for you, or just reach out and say thank you, because we definitely appreciate you coming on here.
Send me a jiu-jitsu technique video of something cool that you found. I'd love to see that too.
There you go.
Awesome. And we do have the Dem Pure group has started up their Discord chat. That's amazing. And they have a Dem Pure athlete section in there. So maybe we'll have to get you in there. And that'd be awesome. We'll send you the Discord link. We've been sharing the Discord link out. I'll have to go get it and post it for y'all. And it's anybody can join, and they have all kinds of information on how to they're talking about doing a beginning, this next month, the beginning of the cleanse. They're doing a 2-week cleanse all together as a group, and they're telling people how to do it and for what health issues it might help you for. And then they're how to get certified. And then if you, they're talking about indoor, outdoor, they have all kinds. I can't even tell you all of them. There's so many. It. Yeah, it's amazing.
That's so
I love
awesome.
This. Yeah. I love this
Thank
community.
You to those guys for doing that stuff.
I know. They're so awesome. Well, that being said, y'all, I'm going to let the chat go. Y'all have a fabulous day. James, thanks for hanging out with us again, and we'll have you back on. And peace and love. Drake, any final thoughts, or you're dabbing one out? You're just hitting it and he's out of here. All right, y'all. Cheers. Peace.